Things are heating up in Scrap Mechanic, introducing the Weld tool.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Scrap Mechanics channel. I'm bringing you a bonus episode this week because we have gotten a big update for the Scrap Mechanic game. The long requested Weld tool has finally been implemented, and I'm going to give you guys my first impression of the Weld tool. I've been playing with it for a little bit, and I want to show you guys a couple of things I've learned that might help you out, and some tips and tricks that might save you some time from making some mistakes that I've already learned the hard way. So, here's what it looks like. It's a pretty snazzy looking tool here, and we're going to start off simple. The Weld tool lets you just weld objects to other objects. So we got our S for scrap up here on the whiteboard. I'm going to go ahead and put the M that I've made up here as well. So I can just take it, and there we go. Now it is completely attached to a new object, completely static as well. Now you may have noticed that I've placed an additional block on it, and that is for a very specific reason. And the reason is, if I don't do that, I'll show you an example over here. Alright, I have an A right here. If I go ahead and just weld this A flat to this board, say I didn't like what I just did and I wanted to undo it. There's no unweld tool. The only way for me to unweld this is to get rid of any block that is connected to the A, which is a lot of this wall here. So if I want to remove the A, I'm basically going to have to do this. And that is not an ideal solution. So an easy way around that, if you want to basically have an undo tool, is put a single block in between your weld point and the other object, and now all I have to do if I want to move this M, delete that block, and it now becomes an independent object again. And then I can go ahead and reattach it. I can even rotate it if I want. Now we have an SW for scrap welding. Yeah. So another thing I've learned is if you rotate an object with the Weld tool and you place it somewhere, that actually makes its default lift position rotate as well. So now if I put this on the lift, you'll notice that it is in the W position. Now I can do something completely different and actually, I'll grab it by its side instead. You see this little blue plane here? Depending on where I grab the block, that's going to determine what side of the block gets welded to the next object. So if I grab here, that exact point is going to be where I weld. Now, I actually don't want to do that because I'm going to have the whole edge there. So I'm going to create this one block so I can detach it easily. Otherwise, I would have had to delete that entire edge in order to detach it again. But watch. I'm going to place it like this. And now when I take it off, whoops, its lift orientation is now horizontal. So a little bit of I don't know if that was intentional or not, but now that is a way to change your object's default position on the lift as well. Okay, so another common thing that people are excited about with the Weld tool update is fork suspension. So I've built 3/4 of a vehicle here with the fork suspensions, and I'm going to show you how to do this because it did not work the way that I thought it was going to work, and so there's a couple of different things I can show you guys that might help you out along the way. So I'm going to create the last wheel here, and I'm going to show you some things not to do that I have learned by doing, and things that will work and things that won't work. So we're going to start off, we're going to pretend that, what do we have here? The back left. So we're going to pretend that this lift is the back left of the vehicle. Going to put that there. Let's see, I have elbow in 2 single pieces. We got elbow and 2 single pieces. Then we have another elbow, another single piece, and I think I put steering there. Then we have a split piece, a single piece going off, an elbow piece going down, another elbow piece going down. All right, so here is the intuitive way that you think would work is attach a suspension. So I'm gonna need to get my suspension here. So if I attach a suspension, we go ahead and do an elbow, a bearing and a bearing, and then put that in here. Now, obviously I haven't welded anything yet, so this bearing is attached and this bearing is not. Now, a little bit of a hint, you can only weld if you are on the lift, for if you're going to attach one object to another that are right next to each other. So if I take my hammer out, let's see if this works at all, just to see what happens here. I don't need my connector right now. So you can see it rolls, but only one of these suspensions is actually active. So I'm gonna go ahead and place on a lift. Now, you might think that you can just go ahead and weld, and it looks like it welds, right? It looks like that was successful, but what this has actually done is welded the tire to the elbow joint. It has not welded the tire to the bearing to the elbow joint. So watch, if I take it off, you can see it is not free floating anymore. It is no longer a rolling wheel. And that's because when you're welding like that, it's going to ignore the bearing. So in order to counteract that, you need to find some way to weld object to object with no bearing in between it. You need your bearing to be already attached. So what you would expect to be able to do is, if we attach our bearing and our elbow joint, now why not just weld the elbow joint to the suspension? But the problem is, the suspension is not detected as an object, so you can't do that either. So one workaround to this is add an extra little piece here. So watch, if I do this, and then do an elbow, and then do this and that. Now I'll put it on a lift. So I've added one extra piece here, so now what I can do is add a piece there, and then add it to the suspension. So now these aren't connected, but the weld tool will allow me to connect them, and that is separate from the bearing, so that bearing has not been overridden by the weld process. So you can see, if I did this right, and I hit it with a hammer, it should roll now. Yeah, you can see that now it is a rolling bearing. So this is not ideal though, because now we have to add this extra little block here, and you can see over here, I do not have an extra block, and these do roll. So what we can do is instead, we can still add an extra block that is not attached to a bearing and weld between those two. And the way we can do that, here, I'm gonna give you guys another little hint. If your lift is not where you want it to be, go ahead and add some weight somewhere where you do want it to be. And that way, it'll go more towards that side. All right, now I can operate with these on their own. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start off kind of normal here. Gonna add a bearing and a tire, a bearing, and one of these. And now instead of going down with the suspension, I'm actually going to go up with the suspension, because now I can add this elbow joint, and here's my weld point here. So you can see that this weld point has nothing to do with the bearing, so it's not going to affect the bearings. So that's one way. Now this is a usable turning elbow joint, or fork suspension here. You can put it to a test with the hammer. Yep, so it rolls. But now you have this kind of awkward looking, the suspensions are not symmetrical, one's up and one's down. So what you can do is, once you've welded the first suspension, you can then do the same thing to the second one, which means you have to build up from the wheel. So once again, we start on this side, build up, and I'm gonna have to put on the lift in order to do this welding. here. Uh-oh. And that's why you should start with it on the lift so that you get your orientations correct. So we build up. And then put our elbow joint, and now we weld these together. And now the suspensions are the same direction, and the wheel rotates freely. So now what I can do is I can actually, this is the best thing about the weld tool, I can transfer this from this creation. I have to grab it where I want to weld it, right there. Travel over here, and I need to put this on a lift. Try that one more time. Grab this, go ahead and jump over here, and I can just place it in here. And now, if I go ahead and get my connect tool out and hook everything up, we should have a fully functioning... I've noticed that the bearings sometimes get reversed. Actually, let me do the outside one. They should both work, but I did the outside on all the other ones, and I just like it to be symmetrical. And steering... Now let's check our steering. Alright, yeah, we're good. And we check our gas. Alright, check it out. So now we have fork suspension, and you can see they're all working with each other. So yeah, that's another great possibility that the weld tool has allowed us to do. Now another thing that people are really interested in is the ability to do kind of a the train track kind of, or the train wheels kind of mechanism going on here. So all I've done here is put two wheels on a wall, and it's as simple as putting two bearings on the same side like this, and here is where you have to make sure. So I have not put this on the lift. This is not on a lift, so that means that I can't do this. So if you guys are wondering why you can't connect two objects that are attached to the same object like this, it's because you have to put it on a lift. So if I delete this, put it on a lift, oh, now I can see that that was in the wrong spot. And now if I draw from one wheel to the other, they're not attached right now, as you can clearly see. But the weld tool, once it's on the lift, you can just click and drag, and now they are attached. And if I go ahead and just put an engine on here, I think that won't be in the way. Go ahead and power it. And you can see it kind of looks like a train, the train wheels going on here. So there's some interesting stuff you can do with that as well, which I'm going to show you in just a second over here. I've created a similar mechanism here that has different colors, so you can see it moving in this circular kind of motion. Now, to show you something a little bit more complex that I've done, I've created a nice little scenic thing over here. And this is utilizing the possibilities of different types of mechanical motion with the weld tool, now that we can attach bearings together. So check this out. This is my my biggest time investment so far with the weld tool, and this is what I've managed to come up with. But let me fix something here. There we go. All right, we have a Trickster diving dolphin that dives into the waving ocean. So let's take a look behind the scenes. So this is those train tracks that I showed you over there. It's the exact same thing. It's this thing right here. All I've done is taken the bearings and I've just reversed one of them. And then you get this cool angled piston kind of motion. So you see this is actually just going back and forth, but it angles this platform here. So I thought that would be kind of cool, making these, it kind of animates the waves to create that kind of waving effect. So now the Dolphin, believe it or not, the Dolphin is using the same exact setup. The only difference is that it's just using a longer kind of setup. So these wheels are like 5 blocks wide. And this over here, it's actually the same thing as the wheels. Let me get it in a straight position here. So I have two little bearings right here. and I've just had them going in opposite directions so we can see what happens when those get activated. Whoop, my S is in the way, but that's okay, because I got this connection. I can just disconnect that. And you can see it kind of creates like a figure 8. So when I was watching that happening, I thought it kind of looked like a dolphin diving, like jumping out of the water and then diving back down. So I built the mechanism, and I was actually able to build the dolphin separately on a lift, and then I just attached it to the mechanism. Actually, now that I think about it, why don't we put the S on there? So if I just take the S, I'll give it a little bit of a attachment point here. I'll stop this, and I'll go ahead and place this right there. And now we can see what it looks like with the S. Yeah, just about how I thought. Ridiculous. So that is kind of where I'm at with the weld tool. We've got our fork suspensions, we've got welding objects to other objects. Those little hints with the, make sure you do not, I'm gonna go ahead and ruin this here, make sure you do not do this. Oh, you see all that? Yeah, now I can't get the M or W, however you want to look at it. I can't get this off without deleting that entire section of wall now, because every single attachment point is now attached. Now I wanted to give you guys one little extra hint. This has nothing to do with the weld tool, but it was something that I used, and maybe you use it yourself, maybe you haven't, but when I was painting this, something that was really useful for me was just making a portable platform here. So if I just, this is simply just a scaffolding that I can just place it, and I can access wherever I want to go. Now when I'm on it, I can even raise myself up and lower myself back down so I can work at different heights rather than building a static object. If you guys are working at different heights, it's nice to have a movable object that you can use to get yourself around. So just a little kind of tips and tricks video. First look at the weld tool and some things that, some pointers that I was learning along the way. Shout out to Brent Batch, he actually helped me with this suspension little hiccup that you have to kind of work around to get these to be more compact. So Brent helped me out to get them symmetrical and compact rather than having to add that extra block there, or rather than having them in different orientations. So yeah, what do you guys think? I think the weld tool is pretty cool. I'm looking forward to seeing what else, what other applications can come up with it. I know that people are working on some tank tracks. I've seen some pretty promising results. It's definitely a much more time-consuming process, of course, but so a little short update with my channel. I am keeping Fridays still as my primary upload day. That's going to be where I'm doing all my series uploads, like my challenge series and my showcase series and things like that. However, when something like this happens, when there's just something out of the ordinary, something interesting that I think is worth making kind of like a quicker video about, I'll probably just upload a bonus video in the middle of the week. So what I'm saying is you can start expecting slightly more often to see videos from me, not just on Fridays anymore, but I am keeping the main series stuff to Fridays. So don't forget, leave a comment, let me know what you guys want to see from my future videos. Let me know how you liked this. This was something kind of different for me. It wasn't a finished product video, it was kind of a process video showing something new. So I don't know, do you want to see more of this kind of stuff? That'll allow me to upload more often, because this is takes a little bit less work if I don't have to have something completely finished to do a video. Remember to subscribe if you want to see some more Scrap Mechanic content. I do have a big release coming out on Friday, so I hope you guys are watching on Friday. It's something that can involve any of you guys who have the game, so keep a lookout for that. So like, subscribe, comment, you know the deal. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time on the Scrap Mechanist channel.